Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special good morning to you. I hope that your week was a fruitful one, that your health is good, and that you have taken care of your automobile. And for those of you who may have some issues with your cars, I can help you and solve some of those problems. But mainly what I can do for you is I can give you buzzwords so that it makes it a lot easier for you to communicate with your local service provider, whether you're in the state of Washington or Washington, D.C., as it were. Is that a state? Well, not really. The District of Columbia, California, Texas, Nebraska, and Daytona. Oh, excuse me, Daytona. What is this weekend? The 500. And we're going to hear a lot about that coming up. But first, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Folks, it's O'Reilly Bonus Point Month. At O'Reilly Auto Parts, you can stop in today for some store-wide savings. Plus, you earn double O Reward points on all sale items like wiper blades, motor oils, and more. And if you're not an O Rewards member, you can sign up today, online or in-store. It's fast, easy, and it's free. But hurry, double points are only available for a limited time. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. That's the number for you to call. Hannah will take your call, put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air. Like us, you'll love us. A 2013 Honda Accord came in the shop running rough, stalling, and a check engine light. The vehicle had originally been repaired by another shop. After a thorough diagnosis, we found the vehicle was generating a bad signal from the crankshaft position sensor. This seemed odd as it had just recently been replaced, but the scope doesn't lie. A bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% inline and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at Motorrad.com. In the Car Clinic service bay this week, a 2013 Ford Escape. The customer was having a hard time cranking the vehicle and had to jump-start the car several times in the weeks prior. They assumed it was a failing battery, but it turned out to be something else. After a close inspection, we found the alternator was supplying very low voltage to the system, which can never be fully charged. We charged the battery, tested it, and confirmed it was still good. We then replaced the alternator and performed a starting system test after verifying proper voltage from the alternator. The starter motor showed an abnormally high current draw, likely damaged from all the cranking of the vehicle with low voltage. Our solution? A new Motorcraft starter and alternator, so we could be sure to fix it right. Both parts were readily available at FordParts.com. Motorcraft parts offer OE-approved specifications and performance for all your Ford and Lincoln repairs. Motorcraft, right part, priced right, and you can learn more about Motorcraft starters, alternators, and other high-quality vehicle-specific parts at Motorcraft.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special good morning. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Without any hesitation, we're going to go to one of our favorite cities. And folks, you've heard me talk with this gentleman several times, many times over the history of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. From Daytona Beach, Terry Sabiston, Motorsports Director for the Car Clinic affiliate WNDB 1150 AM News Talk Radio. Terry, good morning. Welcome to Pensacola and to Bobby Likis Car Clinic from, I presume, the center of the racing universe there at Daytona Beach.
I am just about at the center. I'm actually behind the pit wall, right at the start-finish line here at Daytona International Speedway. If I look to my left, I can see the end of the stadium. To turn 180 degrees, I see the other end of the stadium with 100,000 seats that are completely empty right now.
Really?
Yeah, there's no track activity till 11:30 this morning. So everybody's getting breakfast and getting ready to go. And 11:30, the Busch Clash cars that are running tomorrow afternoon, they come out for an hour's practice. And then we have ARCA qualifying with the ARCA series. They're going to qualify at 12:30. And then we're having the guys who are going to qualify for the 500 come out and practice after that. And then we'll take a little break, and then they'll come back out and final practice for the qualifying cars, which those will be single-file runs. The guys coming out, getting their cars set up to come out and qualify tomorrow for the Daytona 500 pole. But today is the ARCA Series race, which is going to happen around 4:30 this afternoon on the Motor Racing Network. And I got to thank the Motor Racing Network right off the top. I get to be a part of that broadcast this afternoon. They're going to have me as part of their crew, and I'll be on MRN this afternoon. So a big shout-out to MRN. I went to their production meeting this morning, and I get to be part of that broadcast, which I've been part of the broadcast for the past 15 years because we did it, but MRN's doing it this time. So that was a nice gesture by them.
Well, and congratulations, Terry. That's a great position to be in. It's just well-deserved. I mean, you are there, and you live there. You've lived that life of the racing for a long time, as well as broadcasting from WNDB. And one of the, as I understand, stock car racing, of course, is back in Daytona, but 5 cars, as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, go out to qualify. So they run what, like 5 laps, and this is to qualify for the ARCA race. Is that correct?
5 minutes. You
5
get all
minutes.
5 cars out there, and you got 5 minutes, and you're running a lap in about 55 seconds. 50, right around that 55-second mark. Under 50, you hope to get a good qualifying spot. So 185 miles an hour. But with 5 cars, it's not the fastest. I mean, you go out 5 cars, and you can go out, you don't have to go out all together, but the smart thing is get together and utilize the draft. And the fastest car might not be the car at the front. It might be the guy who lays back a little and gets a good run catching the draft of those other cars in front of him. And that was the game we saw as they practiced a few weeks back here at the ARCA testing. You saw some people getting out there and just trying to figure out where the best place to get some extra speed down the back stretch, the front stretch, through the tri-oval, wherever you could, catching the right draft off those cars in front of you. Because the guys up front might be doing 185. You might get a 185 and a half, a 186 just by being in that draft. That guy up front's punching the hole. It's fun to ride behind him. You've been behind a tractor trailer and it sort of catches you and pulls you along. Well, that's what it's like here at Daytona at 185 miles an hour.
Well, that is amazing, and it's just it's kind of mind-boggling. And folks, what is interesting here and what Terry's saying is that it's not always the fastest car. There's parity there because the rules and regulations that racers have to build their cars and engines by are very strict and very well inspected. But to go out there in 5s and you've got this first, as Terry said, punching a hole in the air, and then your number 5th car. So Terry, let's say we go out there. Number one, of the 5 minutes, it's going to take probably, and I'm just estimating this, a couple of laps to really for everyone to get in position. And then if you're the final, and I'm just trying to scenario here, if I'm the final guy here, the 5th car, and it took me 2 laps for us to get in position, and then I back off, then I can catch up because again, the four cars in front of me have punched a hole in the air, and I can catch up. So I may be the last person to cross that 5-minute finish line, but I may have run that last lap the fastest ET. Is that what it's all about?
Correct. So, or you could jump 2 cars out real quick and try and get away from everybody and run those 2 cars together and push each other and get a fast lap and hope the other 3 don't ever catch up to you. You don't want to get too far back. You never know. It's a lot of strategy, and it happens 7 times because in groups of 5, there's 34 cars in this race. They're going to go out there and do that one time after another every 5 minutes for about 45 minutes.
So what else?
And that's what I think is fun. It's a heat race, literally one after another.
Unbelievable. So what else is going on outside of the track? Aren't there some 5K runs and a lot of activities?
We got quarter midgets running over here on a concrete pad right over behind the Cup garage right now, and that's entertainment. A little quarter-mile bull ring or eighth-mile bull ring, and some young kids in these quarter-mile midgets, and there's some good racing going on. I watched that this morning. That goes on all day today and tomorrow. We've got a 5K at the beach, I believe, maybe today. I know there's a 13 half marathon that starts here at the Speedway in the morning and goes to the beach and back. So if you're in Daytona, watch traffic tomorrow. There's going to be a marathon running down International Speedway Boulevard. But that's the fun of this, too, is there's a lot of activities going on. And then tomorrow we're going to set the front row for the Daytona 500, and then we're going to have the Busch Clash, which the Busch Clash is back. That's how it started. It was the Busch Clash, and that's the way it should be. And they're bringing back the old names and the old history of racing in a lot of neat ways. And this is the previous year's pole qualifiers, winners, the top drivers. There's 19 of them. They go out there and they run tomorrow afternoon. Now think about that. Those teams have 2 cars here in the garage right now, one for the Clash and one for pole qualifying. And you've got to get 2 cars ready, and that's probably your backup car, so you want to make sure you don't mess that car up too much for the Clash in case you have some incidents during the week leading to the Daytona 500. So a lot of strategy in that race tomorrow, and we'll see that practice coming up first thing. And that practice, they'll come out, and these cars will run together in a pack and get used to running in a pack because the next time they run will be in the Clash tomorrow afternoon. So we'll have a nice drafting session here to start off Speed Weeks at 11:30.
So, Terry, for NASCAR, the Daytona 500 kicks off the season for 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, it does. We do the Super Bowl first, and think about that. Right now, I'm in the middle of Daytona National Speedway. This is a city that's literally building. I would say right now we've probably got 25,000 people in the infield. We've got 2 garages full of people, but it's slowly growing. The campgrounds are filling up outside. A week from now, this will be a city of 200,000 people just here on the property of Daytona International Speedway by the time the green flag falls for the Daytona 500. And think of the infrastructure it takes to support a city of 200,000. That's what's happening over here the next 10 days. Well, and it is so much fun to be a part of it.
I'm sure it is. Well, I want to say this again. Congratulations on being part of the MRN network. I've actually used their facilities at Lowe's Motor Speedway, in fact, to produce a Bobby Likis car clinic from there, and it was really a great time. We had a lot of, we had Ray Evernham on the air with us. We had Andrew Randolph, Dr. Andrew Randolph, at that time was the director of engine architecture for Dale Earnhardt for Hendrick Racing. No, Hendrick. What's the other one? DH. Anyway, for the Hendrick Racing Corporation. What is it, Fabio? Childress. Yeah, duh. Thank you, Childress. He won't invite me back to his track. But it was a lot of not only fun, but a lot of facts, and to be in the same room, sharing the same mic with these folks. They're brilliant, and not only to strategize, and be a pit crew and a pit steward as Ray Evernham was, but they're just part of the making of the history of racing. And that's really what you and I, that's what excites me, is that the history-making time starts, and we're part of that. And I want to thank you for joining us at Bobby Likis Car Clinic today.
Well, thanks, Bobby. It's a gorgeous day, clear blue skies. As I said, great day to come to the track. But whether it be quarter midgets or marathons, we've got it all going on here at Daytona International Speedway, and it all is. It ends next Sunday with the Daytona 500. So WNDB has complete coverage here. I got a great team I work with, and we're going to be bringing some great interviews to the table. You can listen at newsdaytonabeach.com. Online or download the WNDB app and take us with you wherever you go. Bobby, I really appreciate you letting me be part of your show, and it's just so much fun being here at Daytona and being able to share it.
Well, to that end, Terry, and folks, for those of you who are on watchbobbylive.com, you'll see the slate that we put up there. You'll see Terry and the background of the track and the 1150 News Talk Daytona, our Daytona affiliate. And I have to tell you, it's just, it thrills me, and it's always just a great relationship that I enjoy with you and with all of the folks there in Daytona. So a shout out to all of you folks there that are enjoying the beginning of the racing season as we know it. Thanks again, Terry, for joining us this morning at Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I don't know when you sleep, but there's miles to go before you do.
After the breakfast, the day after the 500, the Champions Breakfast, that's when I take a nap, which I believe is President's Day. So isn't that a vacation, a holiday anyway?
Okay, all right. Take care, Terry. Well, there you have it, folks. Hey, heartbreak, don't go away, I'll be back. Entertainment systems, backup camera, start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's cars. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. What affects battery performance? Harsh climates, frequent stopping, rush hour traffic, and aggressive driving all put wear on your battery. With its compressed cell design and glass mat separators, AGM batteries are built to excel in these types of conditions. Learn more about AGM advantages at autobatteries.com. Using Hest high-energy solvent technology, Berryman's B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system to help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. After his 98 Camry failed emissions, a local mechanic told William he could get back on the road for around $300. He instead opted for Berryman B12 Chem Tool, and 1 tank of gas later, his vehicle passed. Learn more about Berryman's B12 Chem Tool and other great products at berrymanproducts.com. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 2014 Honda Odyssey with 80,000 miles came in the shop with 2 complaints. The owner said she felt 2 vibrations. First one when she braked for stops. Second vibration was driving at road speeds over bumps or crossing over bridges. She said her van simply didn't drive like it did when it was new. After road testing and inspection, we found worn-out pads, warped rotors, bad front struts, and leaking rear shocks. All easy fixes. We reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional, ordered Monroe shocks and brake best pads and rotors. After all repairs, the technician road tested the van again. Wow, even he was surprised. Vibration gone, brakes smooth as glass. Tech happy, owner happy, all good. Another great reason our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we come to you at watchbobbylive.com and or on your local AM and or FM radio stations across the nation. So, and another thing too, we're available on podcasts. Just simply go, even if you can't do this in real time, which you can go to Watch Bobby Live on our YouTube channel and see the show, see right into the studio, and this is HD video, as well as download our podcast. And here's how you do that, folks. You go to carclinicnetwork.com. That's all one word, not case sensitive. That's our radio network, carclinicnetwork.com, and click on Car Clinic Library /podcast. You can find Car Clinic on iTunes as well. So download those programs, and then you can listen to them. You can subscribe, and you automatically download to your OS system, and then you will be able to tune into the portions of the Car Clinic that you'd like to hear that are most important to you, or perhaps you didn't hear all of the answers to one of my questions that we produced during the 2-hour broadcast. So that's an invitation to go to carclinicnetwork.com. Click on Car Clinic Library /podcast, and you can find Car Clinic's show on iTunes as well. Let's go to Mississippi, take a call from Jim, and then we'll take your calls. Hannah will at 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air. Jim, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How you been, my friend?
Bobby, I've had a knee replacement. They're trying to do me like that $6 million man. They're trying to replace every part of my body, Roger. Now, look, Bobby, I still got that Nissan 2002 Nissan Exterior. I love this vehicle. If you ever get in a wreck in it, you can walk away from it. But a couple of years ago, I had a problem. The number 4 cylinder was missing.
Mm-hmm.
I've done everything I could. Put it in the shop, found out my injectors were stuck open on that number 4.
Wow.
I had the injectors replaced, everything put back together, all new gaskets. Since then, it's got to where the check engine light will come on. Excuse me. And let me stop that right there.
Okay.
Okay, on that fan on the radiator,
mm-hmm.
That's supposed to be centrifugal, right? With the heat, it gets hot. The coil open up, make the fan turn all the time, and then it'll cool down and just turn as needed or slower.
Is it on the radiator or on the engine?
On the radiator, it's a belt-driven fan. This thing is stuck wide open. It sounds like a B-52 airplane flying.
Well, anytime a fan runs all the time, you're talking about when the engine is cool, you first fire it up in the morning and you drive off, that fan's turning?
Yeah, it's a belt-driven fan.
Well, that will, number one, aside from it's a belt-driven fan, but it's driven by an electric motor, or it's driven by hydraulics, one of the two.
No, this is mine. It's got a water pump on it. We got the fan on the water pump.
Well, it's not mounted on a radiator.
No, it's in front of the radiator. On the motor.
Okay. All right.
Okay, but this thing, I know you can hold a fan and crank the truck.
Right.
And it will turn, but you can hold it with your hand. It's very simple. But this thing, when you crank it down, it's running wide open. I mean,
well, that's a clutch fan. You need to replace that clutch fan because that will.
Okay, how will that affect my mileage?
That's exactly where I was going. That will literally cost you. I'm gonna just a rough estimate, 3 miles per gallon.
Well, I'm getting about 12 miles right now. Okay, now that's the second part of the question. Go back to the first part.
Okay, all right.
Now, on that catalytic converter, I had it checked. That left converter was messed up. I was away from home, and a friend of mine went in there and cut that pipe. He cleaned that converter out to keep burning my motor up.
Okay.
He said, when you get back home, you get you another catalytic converter and put it back. He said, you may as well change both of them.
Right.
Which I'm getting around to do that. It's just, I'm a man. There's two people I believe in. Besides God, I believe in my barber and I believe in my mechanic. I don't let nobody else cut my hair but one man. I don't let nobody work on my vehicle but one mechanic.
Well, you got a doctor that worked on your knee, so maybe there's three people.
He didn't do too good a job, so I'm crippled up right now. But we'll do something else by that. But with the catalytic converter being cleaned out for the time being, I'm not driving the vehicle. It's parked. because the fan locked up, the converter cleaned out. Both of them count against my gas mileage, isn't it?
Well, the converter not much so, except for the engine is designed to have some back pressure in that converter, so that will affect the performance of the engine. If you were racing, it would make it faster, but you're not racing. But I think you should take this, you know, like you said, your first question, second, I think you should take it one step at a time. Number one,
Yes, sir.
the fan has to be replaced, because that is dragging the engine down. It's parasitic draw, and it's the same thing as carrying. Let's see, if a fan draws 12 to 15, 20, let's say it drew 20 horsepower to turn, and it could possibly do that. That's the equivalent to 20 horsepower is 200 pounds. So it's like you've got bags of sand in the back of the vehicle that you're carrying around unnecessarily. A lot of people don't realize it when they accumulate things in the trunk. I mean, from bowling balls to golf clubs to stuff, just whatever the stuff is that we all carry.
Well, everybody's got plenty of stuff.
Plenty of stuff, right. The more stuff you carry, the less fuel mileage that you'll get. So for you, and for what I'm seeing here, of course, you won't be driving for a while with your knee surgery, but I guarantee you the first thing you do is replace that fan and be done with it. And I'm not surprised about the converter, and here's why. During the time the injector was stuck open, you're flooding that engine, and that raw fuel goes in the converter. It's the converter's job to burn out any leftover fuel, but it's not the converter's job to burn gobs of fuel. It burns leftover spent exhaust gases that are rich in nature, but not liquid fuel in nature. I mean, there's a difference,
Yes,
you know. There's a difference between a mist of fine on the summertime at a fair or an event. It's really hot, and you'll have this mist of water that feels really great. That's different from somebody holding the hose on you and having to run like kids run through the water hose. So that's the difference between what the catalytic converter sees. And I'll tell you right now, it being flooding engines will destroy catalytic converters. And not only does it mean that the car doesn't pass emissions, but beyond that, the oxygen sensor sees that issue, because there's an O2 sensor pre-cat, before the cat, and one post-cat. And the one pre-cat controls the air-fuel mixture in the engine. And then whatever doesn't get properly corrected, and there's always, some, give and take, because it always, your foot goes on, accelerator and off. So your air-fuel mixture is always constantly changing, and it's rich, then too lean, then rich, then too lean. And whenever it's too rich, that catalytic converter burns the extra fuel, so that the air fuel coming out of the catalytic converter is non-existent. It's clean air coming out of the catalytic converter. That's what a converter does. I'll tell you, you look at the and people talk about emissions, and there are not enough states, in my opinion, including Florida, which I have heartburn about that really has no inspection whatsoever with regard to emissions. You look at the California condition of air quality today and 30 years ago, when emissions, and actually more than 30 years ago now, because emissions really kicked in the 70s. And you'll see that the air quality in California, and I don't have the numbers, so I won't say they're 50% improved or 80% improved, but no doubt about it. And then you look at countries like China, and India, and I've never been there, nor do I have any desire to go. But you get off the plane, and the plane lands in the smog, and it's just unbelievably nasty air. And that's because of industrialization of those countries and pollution from automobiles and transportations, including diesel trucks and those sorts of things. So we live in a world that's really a global society, a global economic, and I have a little information about that as well, about Hyundai, that Jonathan gave to me before the program. I'll share a little later on in the program about how that's going to affect the economical and the economics globally of that disease that's going around. So anyway, but I'll get to that a little bit later, Jim. So replace it. You got your steps. Replace the fan, and just FYI, and you probably already know this, but you can buy an aftermarket catalytic converter It doesn't have to look like the one that came off your vehicle as long as it fits the vehicle, because the aftermarket catalytic converters have to pass the government mandate. So you don't buy aftermarket catalytic converters that aren't a factory replacement, even if they don't look the same, and they have to be welded in or fitted to a certain extent. You got me?
Gotcha. One more bit of advice, Bobby.
Okay.
These headlights are so fogged up. How can I clean these headlights? Then I'll let somebody else have a time at it.
Well, recently I advised someone to change bulbs and use some Ultrastar bulbs from Sylvania, and he did. But he also said, oh, while I was there at O'Reilly Auto Parts, I bought the kit to clean the fog. So O'Reilly Auto Parts and Sylvania, and of course there, and I did not know this, although I've known about Sylvania and used their products for years. They got them in my car. I gave my brother a set of, you probably heard that story, but the bottom line is they know more about automotive lighting than any other company that I'm aware of, and they have a repair kit that you can buy with instructions, the whole 9 yards, at O'Reilly Auto Parts, Sylvania. And while you're giving your car that attention, which by the way takes 10 to 15 years of looks off of the car. I've seen so many Mercedes, and Hyundais, Sonatas, the older cars, that look like they're 40 years old, and till you either replace or upgrade those foggy headlights, and it just takes age off the car. But more importantly, or even more importantly, the safety factor. When you upgrade the fogged headlights with the kit from Sylvania, you also should put in the Silverstar Ultra bulbs that are 50% brighter.
When I order that fan clutch, what do I call it? A fan clutch?
Well, check with O'Reilly Auto Parts counter person, and he or she will lead you to the right part number.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. No. Thank you for all the time you've given me.
Thank you. You're welcome, Jim. Always. That gentleman, it's just great to hear from him. He's kind of like, just keeps going. He's like the ever ready bunny. I mean, the guy's got to be 65 years old. He's got his knee replacement, and he's worked on these cars, and he never gives up. And I have to say this: it's 2020, a new year. I've never heard a harsh word come out of that man's mouth, and that is really just a part of the great network that we have and the positive network. So. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're going to take a hard break, come back to Nebraska and talk with Ken, and your calls at 888-CAR-CLINIC. A 2015 Ford Escape recently came into the shop, 120,000 miles and going strong, but it was starting to hesitate, and the customer also complained of declining fuel economy. This 2-liter turbocharged engine is GDI, or gas direct injection, and special maintenance is needed in certain areas, particularly the fuel system. We suspected carbon buildup, and sure enough, using a borescope through the spark plug hole, there was definite evidence of carbon buildup. GDI engines are different in the way they inject fuel, and it can create some issues with repair and maintenance. That's why it's important to use products rated for GDI, like Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit. Each step of the process is designed with GDI engines in mind. We use the kit, and after 2 weeks on the road, the car is performing noticeably better, and MPG has improved a bit. Learn more about Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kits and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You know, as you drive your automobile, let's just say that you've got a 3-year-old car, maybe it has 30,000 miles on it, which is about my speed, 10,000 miles a year. And the car's running really well. There's no issues with it. It's a young vehicle. When you consider 30, 40, 50, even 100,000 miles on an automobile. But there's a lot going on under the hood of your car that you don't think about. I know you think about tires, low tire pressure. I mean, our industry that's about the only thing that I can think of that our industry is really in sync on is checking tire pressure. And obviously we didn't do too good a job. Well, you haven't done a great job there either, because manufacturers are putting on tire pressure monitoring systems to give you the warning that there's low pressure in your tire. I think that's one of the biggest and best improvements from technology standpoint that new cars have. All new cars have that, and also some cars have the sensor in the spare. So if you've filled your tires and the light's still on, don't forget to check the spare, because that may have a sensor too. And as you know, we're partnered with the Car Care Council, and periodically the Car Care Council sends me information to share with you. And today is how to avoid car trouble with a belt check. So what does a belt do? I mean, it just turns, it's essential to the cooling and the air conditioning and the charging systems of the engine. So the serpentine belts used to turn the water pump, the alternator, the power steering, and the air conditioner compressor. And older cars use a V-belt. So here's what you check. Number one, check a belt for looseness. And you can look at a V-belt, and you can reach down with your thumb and forefinger and turn the belt 180 degrees and look at it, see if it's glazed, see if it's real shiny. And sometimes you even smell a belt burning because it is slipping, or you hear it when you first crank the engine up, because when you first start the engine, the alternator has to load up and recharge the battery and put the juice back in that it took to start the car, especially if you've got an older car and it goes, and finally it takes 6 miles of driving to replace the energy that it took to start the car. I bet you didn't know that. But according to Rich White, the executive director of the Car Care Council, and I quote, "Why risk being stranded when a bad belt can be diagnosed with simple routine maintenance?" And inspecting and replacing belts as specified in your owner's manual will help you avoid the hassle and expense of a sudden breakdown. There's the ticket, a sudden breakdown. You don't need that. So you check your serpentine belts, and while you're there, or while your technician is there, to have the technician look at the tensioners that set the automatic tension on those belts, because they too wear out. They dance around all the time. In fact, if you've ever opened the hood of your car and just watched the belt turn with the air conditioner on, you'll see the belts jumping around all the time, because the compressor loads and unloads and loads and unloads. So it's important to make sure that the belts, so 80, 90,000 miles is the life expectancy on a good side. You start thinking that at about 60 or 70, but 80 to 90, you need to have your belts replaced. Or if you have a water pump failure, replace the belts. Don't put the same old belt back on, because it got it off to start with. And then on the V-belts, the older cars, that's 40, 50,000 miles, and 60's pushing it. So a special thanks to our partners at the Car Care Council. And also, for more information, including the Car Care Guide, which you should have one in your glove box, which is free online, go to carcare.org. That's carcare.org. Okay, let's go to Nebraska now and take a call from Ken. And your call's next at 888-227-2546. Ken, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Bobby. I really enjoy listening to your program. You've been just a fantastic source of information for me over the years.
Thank you.
I run into a problem here. We rebuilt an engine. My son and I were looking at teaching him how to rebuild, and we have a Ford F-150 2001 that we completely rebuilt. It had a bad crankshaft, and in one of the connecting rods exploded. But anyway, we went and we pulled another motor out of the junkyard and to use for parts. But anyway, we had a complete engine rebuild. We put the engine in the vehicle, started up. We found out that we had fuel pressure problems. We replaced a fuel pump. And I'm just going to run through a list of things here.
Okay.
But we found bad fuel injectors, which we replaced all of those. The EGR valve wasn't working correctly, and we'd put a different EGR valve, not a new one, just another used one. But our problem is we're not getting into a good, consistent closed loop, and we think it's due to the heat. This car, we found out that our temperatures were right around 150 to 160.
Wow.
So, yep. And so we went back to the store and realized that they gave us the wrong thermostat, so we put in a 195er. We fired it back up. Same problems. We're in the maybe 170, 175. We replaced the thermostat again, and then it still did the same. We replaced it for the third time, and rating our parts at O'Reilly's, we got the best one that they had there. I did put it in a pan of water on my stove with a thermometer and made sure that it got up 200 degrees or so before it opened.
Good.
And we installed it in the vehicle. We have cardboard covering the radiator completely. We took the fan and the clutch off of the water pump, and we were still maybe 180, upper 70s, 180, 185. Running it at maybe 3,000 RPM, we finally got her up to 192, 193, and then we could start to see it go into closed loop. And, of course, we had real rich conditions, and I didn't, looking at my little handheld computer on the rich conditions or oxygen sensor problems. We replaced oxygen sensors, mass airflow sensors. I'd had it to a couple of mechanics. Before we started really looking into the heat issue, we thought, well, maybe it's the computer, and so I replaced the computer, had that reprogrammed, and that's my problem. Right now it runs pretty good. We replaced the water pump. I looked at the water pump fins on the new one. They're slightly different than the old one. The old one had more of a curve to them. The new ones are pretty straight fins, but didn't see anything that was unusual. Again, I've taken it to good mechanics here, and scientists are baffled. So
what about the
calling
heater?
You.
What about the heating situation? This time of year,
it'll blow good hot air.
Good hot.
I've got,
okay, so
yes,
so you know that when the heater is on, the heater core acts as a cooling system for the engine.
Yes. Because
that's just a mini radiator is all it is inside the vehicle.
And I have my handheld laser on the top of the motor,
right,
and I confirm that it's 185-ish, 190 maybe, and then inside on the computer also reading 185, 190. So that has been confirmed, and that one line that goes to my heater core and it comes off the top of the motor, it's hot. But above the thermostat on the left side of the motor, it's cool. And I just... we've elevated the front of the vehicle to make sure there's no air pockets in the.
Wait now. Let me ask you a question. You said the left side of the engine. So you're checking the temperature with the infrared. You have an infrared gun, and you're checking temp at the radiator hose and the thermostat housing, and so that's up to operating temperature.
That was cool, Bobby. The thermostat is on the driver's side. It's on the left side of the engine.
Okay.
And so, it's fairly cool there, as if that thermostat wasn't opening. And I mean, you have to run it with your foot on the throttle at 3,000 RPM for 8, 9, 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, there's a lot of heat inside of an engine, but it's just not heating that antifreeze.
Well, yeah, because the thermostat should block the flow for all intents and purposes of the so that there's no flow into the radiator until the engine reaches temp. I mean, that's a real simple situation.
Yes, sir.
This makes me wonder if there's some mismatch of is this the engine from the wrecking yard in total, or did you use a piece of one engine and a part of another engine?
Correct. Yes. So the engine block is out of the yard.
Mm-hmm.
The crankshaft was one I bought out of O'Reilly's with connecting rods.
Right. But intake manifold. What about intake manifold and that configuration? Because Ford uses on that engine the transfer. There's a transfer path across the front of the engine behind the alternators. I remember.
Yes.
And,
yes, sir.
And so that's where the water flows, the coolant flows from one side of the engine to the other, and that's how it returns, because the heat goes to the top, and that's where it goes back. So all that's okay.
That is correct. Yeah, there's a tube there, and it's not leaking or anything, and it that runs underneath that intake manifold from the front to the back of the motor.
Well, it makes me I'm baffled because if you know that you have a thermostat that works, and we know that it doesn't.
Yes.
So let me ask this question: what if you took the radiator cap off? Say the engine, let it get up to 150, but you know how to take the cap off without blowing water out, and can you ever see flow in the radiator?
Well, it has that filler tank on the left side, so you don't actually see the water come, but you can after it's run for a good long time,
right?
And it goes into closed loop, about 190. Then that upper radiator hose is hot, so there is water flowing through there.
And what about the? Can you feel or use the infrared on the radiator and measure the radiator temperature at the bottom of the radiator, the center, and the side, so that you can ensure that the flow is even through the radiator? What about that?
I have not done that, but I can do that.
I think you should do that because we may be looking at the wrong part of the elephant here. We're concerned about, and you and I are on the same page here. You're astute, and you've done a great job. But with the water pump and the fins and all that's all good. Yeah. But what if there's a radiator issue here? And also I have. You kind of steered me back in the right direction, because I was going to ask you if you've read digitally the temperature of the engine, and you say that by reading digitally the temperature of the engine, it's running the 192 or 190. Correct. And see, that's the important thing. Now, I will say this: to my recollection, and I'm not sure of the year, but you should be able to read the temperature of the left side of the head and the right side of the head.
Okay,
and I'm not sure that engine has that, but we had, in fact, it was agricultural, which is a state of Florida, and there was an officer, and he brought his vehicle in here, and he said, Bobby, I got a problem here. He said, because I do stakeouts, and he said, I let my car idle all night long. He said, but I can't do that anymore because it's overheating. And we put a radiator in it and what have you, and ultimately we had to put a clutch fan and the fan would overdrive, and it even threw me for a loop, because the car was idling. Now, not the same question as you have, but the fan was idling, and then you could watch the fan, and I could digitally watch the temperature of the left head and the right head, and when it reached 192, the other one was within 3 degrees of it, but that was on a V8 engine. And you've got a V8 engine as well. It's the same modular type engine. So I think you need to and I'm not sure a scan tool. We had a shop tool, a scanner, and that's a $6,000 tool. I think you should go to a service shop and look for the operating temperature of each side of the engine. Use your infrared to measure and let it run. And cover the radiator. It's okay, let it run.
Yep.
And then measure the temperature of the radiator in 4 corners, left, top, bottom, and then you'll see, and because ultimately after 45 minutes of running, all of the water, the coolant should be about the same temp, with the radiator
Correct.
always being a little cooler because that's what controls the heat in the
Yes.
engine. So do those things and then call me back.
Okay. Hey, Bobby, this also, it has a cylinder head temperature sensor.
Yeah,
you know, on
right,
the left head
exactly. On the left head only.
Only. And we were thinking, you know, maybe it was giving a wrong indication to the
Yeah,
computer.
I was thinking the first thing, yeah, you know, but you already passed that because you've got the infrared gun, so you already passed the computer.
Right.
Let me think about it, and and let me put you on hold, and you send me, and Hannah will give you my email address, and I'll help you work through this. That way we can give other folks time for their questions as well. So
thank you much.
Thank you much, Ken. So put him on hold. And then we're going to go to Pennsylvania, take a call from Eric. Eric, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, good morning. You got a great show going on this morning.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting stuff, man. I mean, you know, it's like a needle in a haystack. So people call and say, hey, Bobby, what will you charge me to fix my car? Well, what's wrong? Well, it's got an erratic problem. Well, I'll tell you this. To remove the needle from your haystack, which means it's a buried problem, it will take a long time, I will charge you nothing to remove it, but I will charge you by the hour to find it.
Yeah, right.
Well, and really, you know, and Eric, and so that you and I are not interrupted, I'm going to advise you right now that we only have a very short time left, not enough to get into you're considering buying a Ford, and you're in Pennsylvania, and I see Arnold's calling in with a Nissan Rogue. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you would, kind sir, is to be patient. And then when I come back for the second hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, I'll take your call first. Can you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And folks, it's so interesting, you know, from racing in Daytona to to overcooling. How does an engine overcool? That is really a weird one. Folks, Bobby Likis Car Clinic has been brought to you in part by Clarius, the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries, which are built to power start-stop technology, backup cameras, entertainment systems, and all the other electrical demands of vehicles today. You can learn more at autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com. Until next time, I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes in a repair shop beyond diagnosing cars. Sometimes technicians get caught up in a repair that just keeps needing more. Recently, an 05 Saturn came in the shop. A 15-year-old car, 150,000 miles. Our young customer was dealing with a coolant leak, a slow, steady drip on the engine area on the driver's side. After a cooling system pressure test, we determined the lower radiator hose was leaking. We replaced the lower hose, topped off the system, and parked the vehicle. All good. Upon prepping for pickup the next day, you can imagine our disappointment to see coolant leaking from the right side of the radiator. A $500 repair. Our solution? A bottle of K-Seal, which can cost under $20. K-Seal features ceramic technology and is designed to repair leaks without clogging. One bottle completely solved the problem, sealed the leak within 10 minutes. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like Napa Auto Parts. So when you have a cooling system that has a leak, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. For more information, go to kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the cultivated section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the cultivated section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And here we go again. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. This is our second hour. So if you're just tuning in, a big welcome to you every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time. We come to you from the center of the automotive universe, and which happens to be a really nice studio that we designed, built by Acoustic Systems in Austin, Texas. Actually, the same company that converted an old brewery in D.C. to XM satellite radio studios. That's Acoustic Systems, and the floor weighs about 10,000 pounds, and the walls are 4 inches thick, so I can hear a pin drop in here. I can also hear my voice and your voice, and I'm inviting you to join me at 888 Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Berryman and their intake valve and combustion cleaner. Formulated for use in all fuel-injected engines, gasoline, Berryman's intake valve and combustion cleaner helps dissolve that stubborn carbon buildup for a dramatic increase in performance and overall drivability. You can learn more at berrymanproducts.com. And you can learn more by tuning in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, because let me tell you, folks, if you drive a DI, that's a GDI, gasoline direct injection engine, it will, as all gasoline engines will do, create carbon and build up and cause performance issues. Your calls at 888 Car Clinic when I come back. Glad to have you in the house today. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element Ultrastat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The Ultrastat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The Ultrastat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad Ultrastat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. Folks, a 91 Lumina came into the shop this week with a 3.1-liter V6 leaking coolant. The customer said there was coolant coming from the front of the engine and was worried it may need costly repair. After diagnosis, we confirmed it had a failing head gasket. Checking the labor guide for times, adding the cost of the head gasket set, plus coolant, oil, and filter, and miscellaneous, the repair would definitely cost more than this vehicle was worth. Not the holiday present our customer was hoping for. So we provided another option, K-Seal. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging and help prevent future leaks. One bottle completely sealed the leak within 10 minutes, and our customer was very happy. K-Seal is available at fine retailers everywhere, like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour. We're going to go directly to the phones. Pennsylvania, Eric has held. Eric called in at the last of the first hour, so he was kind enough to hold throughout the break in the top of the hour. Eric, thank you so much for your consideration and your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. What can I do for you?
So I'm considering buying a Ford Explorer. Now, it's not new. It's a 2018. It's got about 25,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And it's the sport model with the 3.5 turbo V6. My biggest concern with it is the internal water pump. How many have you seen in your experience that have failed, and around what kind of mileage have they failed?
Well, that's a great question, because when you mentioned the internal water pump, we had in the last 6 months we've had one, so not many fail. That's the good news. That car had, I'm thinking, 90,000 miles on it. It could have been, as memory serves me. It was a very clean engine, but the process to replace that water pump was open heart surgery, open hood surgery. I mean, it was Eric, ridiculously designed is the only way that I can express this. And ironically, the Richard, who was the customer that owned that vehicle, a super nice guy, had the foresight. I don't know what his background was. It obviously is in mechanical engineering of some kind. And he didn't come in here saying, "Oh, I got a water pump, take it apart." But he did say, while you're in there, go ahead and replace the timing chains and the pulleys, et cetera, and we did. Now, here's the bad news, and then here's the good news. And I'll try to draw this out for you. The water pump, as you know, is internal in the engine, and the water pump has an O-ring seal that if it leaks, the O-ring seal has a port that lets it leak outside of the engine through a hole in the block behind the the alternator, because that's where this vehicle was leaking coolant, behind the alternator on the driver's side. Well, it's transverse mounted, so it's on the front of the engine. So the bottom line is we took that apart. We went ahead and replaced the timing belt, and timing chains and gears and those things, and tensioners, and it came out absolutely perfectly. Now, but here's the good news, and so here's, not my favorite design, as you can tell, but here's the good news. The original water pump, and I don't know what year this car was, let's say it was 4 years old. It had to be, because it had a bunch of miles on it. So there was, let me see if I can draw a picture. Let's say that we got to have a football field, and the football field is all wet, and we got an O-ring around the football field, and then just outside the goal line of the football field, and there's a port. So if it leaks at that goal line, at that rubber seal at that goal line, then that water will leak outside, and you'll know it. However, what about the rest of the perimeter of the football field? There was no leakage to the outside, only leakage to the inside. So any coolant that would leak would get into the oil. And I said, well, this is ridiculous. You'd have to say, well, okay, now, water pump, if you leak internally, make sure you go to the goal line on the far side and leak at that one little place, because that's where the pocket is that allows the water to go out. And I'm not making this up. I mean, whoever designed that, why would they design a place to leak, a place for the leakage to escape, if it had to be? So how do you fix that? The new water pump we put on had a port. It had think of a running laps around a field, like we have here at Pensacola State College. There you can lap that field. So what Ford Motor Company did was they put a track, a little half-inch band around the perimeter of the football field or the perimeter of the O-ring on the new water pump, so that at any point that leaked, that it would leak into the track, and that track would then circle around and leak out the hole. Do you see where I'm going?
I'm following you.
Okay, so I was not proud of Ford at first with the design, but I was really proud of, and we used, and we're a member of Ford's professional service network, and so we put an OEM Ford water pump on this V6 that was an upgraded water pump, and I said, wow, this is fantastic. The Ford engineers saw how they could do something better and had, as you remember, the better idea, the replacement water pump. Now, I said all that to tell you, when you're considering the 18 V6, not to worry, because number one, the failure rate is almost nil, and number two, if it does leak, you can be assured no coolant will go into the engine, because they put a little leakage perimeter around the whole water pump. So the water pump now has two O-rings. It has an O-ring that seals it, and then if that O-ring fails, it will leak into a track that goes all the way around the water pump and finds the weep hole, and so that even if it did fail, it wouldn't leak internally. You got it?
I got it.
Okay.
One more question.
Sure,
Are you familiar with how the warranties work? Like if someone owns a vehicle, trades it in, and then the second owner, do you pick up any kind of warranty?
Well, all manufacturers, to my knowledge, yes, the warranty is transferred as long as the previous owner has had all of the maintenance services performed that are required to sustain and maintain the OEM factory warranty. And so how many miles on this vehicle?
25,000.
Well, it's still. What's the warranty on it? 48,000.
I'm not sure because I'm buying it from a dealer that isn't Ford.
Well, it doesn't matter. You can go online to Ford. Just go to Ford.com. Or, now, we use FordParts.com, but you can go online and you can. That's what I would do. Or is the owner's manual in the glove compartment, or do they have it?
I'm not sure if it's in the glove compartment.
If I were you, I would definitely. Most dealers, most credible dealers, will take all of the documents out of the glove compartment, put them in a clear plastic, like a sandwich bag, but and then of course they'll remove probably anything that's personal, because when a dealer sells a car, that dealer really doesn't share who owned the car before for privacy reasons. And of course, some dealers don't have other reasons, ulterior motives. I won't go there, but I will just tell you that ultimately you'll need, and I would suggest that you ask for service records and the books and manuals, because I've got a classic Porsche that I'm going to sell, and I have the original equipment manufacturing. I don't have the Monroney sticker that went on the windshield, but I got the original owner's manual and the name who bought it and where he took it in the first 500 miles and yada yada. So if you're going to buy this used vehicle, which is fine, and that dealership won't be your only source. So if they can't produce records, and you look at Carfax reports, all of those, do your due diligence before you sign that check. You got it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome,
That's
Eric.
very reassuring.
Thank you so much. Thanks for calling. That's really interesting. A water pump internally built into the engine. So just really terrific. So let's go to Arnold and take a call from Arnold. And Arnold, we do have a hard break that's going to interrupt our conversation, but at least let's kick it off. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You've got a 15 Nissan Rogue. Welcome into the program.
Thank you, Bobby. This is my son's car. He can't call you this morning. He's busy, but it has 50,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And he drives it a short way, a half-hour drive, morning and night to work. And about 2 weeks ago, he took it out and had to drive it for about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
and the transmission all at once acted like it was coming through the floorboards. And so he went into a dealership, and first thing they said, well, you need a new transmission. And so one of the mechanics is, that's not the greatest transmission in that car. It's a CVT, I guess they call them.
Yes. The continuously variable transmission, and that is a drawback on that automobile, and for that reason, I do not recommend Nissan cars.
Okay. And they sold him. The dealership said they had to put a cooler in.
Okay.
And the cooler cost him $1,200 installed it. And now he drove it this past week for 2 hours straight, and it worked normal. But it just seems unbelievable that a 5-year-old car with 50,000 miles on it, there's no guarantee at all, they said, on it. You put the cooler in, and good luck. And it normally will work, but it's a common issue because of heat buildup.
Okay, so here's what I'm with you. Here's what I recommend to every person tuned in that has a Nissan Rogue with a CVT transmission. Don't go away, because when I come back, I'll tell you what's on my mind. How sneaky is that? In the service bay this week, an 05 Chevy Silverado. The truck was experiencing a front brake noise and a pull to the left when stopping. We performed a thorough inspection and found the front pads completely worn out on the driver's side. The passenger side looked to be okay, but we noticed a loose wheel bearing on that side. Why would the pads be worn on just one side? It was a seized driver's side brake caliper. So we replaced the pads and rotors on the front along with the driver's side caliper. Also replaced the passenger side wheel bearing. Our parts choice for the repair, Omnicraft. With today's complex vehicles, not every part works or works well. Quality, fit, and function is a belief system in my shop. Approved and backed by Ford Motor Company for most non-Ford and non-Lincoln vehicles, Omnicraft quality brake parts will help ensure vehicle reliability and longevity. Learn more about Omnicraft brakes and other Omnicraft parts at omnicraftautoparts.com. Omnicraft Auto Parts, backed by Ford. Being car care aware is important all year round, but winter is an especially critical time as harsher conditions can strain your automobile. Here are a few items to check, courtesy of the Car Care Council. Winter means shorter days and longer nights. It's a great time to make sure interior and exterior lights are working properly, and don't forget to make sure your headlights are properly aimed. This item is often overlooked. The best way to warm up your engine in the winter is to drive gently at the start. Make sure your ice scraper and snow brush are accessible, and replenish your emergency kit. Jumper cables, a flashlight, blankets, extra clothes, bottled water, non-perishable food, and a first aid kit with any medication that may be needed. It may seem like a lot, but better safe than sorry. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove compartment. That's carcare.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Arnold whose son has a 15 Nissan Rogue, and they replaced the cooler and the transmission, the CVT transmission. So, Arnold, here's what your son has to do every 30,000 miles. And I don't know how many miles a year he drives, but I would say every 2 years or 30,000 miles, because the fluid in a CVT transmission is specialized. It is the formula is different because that transmission has a belt drive internally, and that belt is a steel belt. And the belt, you would normally think of one pulley that pulls another pulley. That's how belts work. But it's the exception with a CVT transmission. The belt is made of steel pucks that are linked together. Those steel pucks push one another. So one puck pushes another, then another, and another, and it's ingenious the way they're actually made. But the bottom line is those steel belt, which is what it is, that steel linked belt wedges between two pulleys, and one pulley gets wider, and as that pulley gets wider, the belt goes down into the lower section of the V, because the V gets wider, and simultaneously the other driven pulley gets narrower, so that whatever the distance between the two center lines of the pulley stays the same. The belt rides up the groove of one pulley while it rides down the groove, ergo changing the ratio between the driven and the drive gear. Now, the drive pulley, there are no gears. It's a fantastic transmission that I found 40 years ago in the UK. It's a very old type transmission, has been updated. And when I first found about the CVT, I called Don Gartlitz with his Top Fuel dragster, and I said, I have found a transmission that will allow you to apply the engine torque to the track in infinite ratios, so you can, like a zipper, go and increase your speed. And the first question out of his mouth was, can it handle 2,000 horsepower? Well, that ended that. So I was for that transmission until we fast forward 20, 30 years, and it started to be installed in Nissans and other cars. Mazda does the same thing. It is now my least favorite transmission. So for the short answer for your son, and for everyone tuned in that drives a CVT transmission-equipped automobile, 30,000 miles, 2 years, change that fluid, and you must use the fluid specifically designed for a CVT. You got it?
Yes, sir. It was sort of interesting because my neighbor the other day has a Subaru Outback, I think it is, and he has a CVT.
Right.
And I said, have you had any issues? And it's a 16 model, and he said, not yet. He said, I was just notified that they have upped their warranty to 100,000 miles because of the problems they have with it.
Sure, and so they're going to do, and ultimately they'll get it right. But in the meantime, give me what I have in my car. I have a German-made. I got a Jag that's a UK Tata Motors. What I really love about the car is the transmission. It's a German-made automatic transmission with paddle shifters, 8-speed, and you can feel it go from one to the next, or you can paddle shift and go down, shift down. It's a fantastic transmission, and I've already changed the fluid in it twice, because I have 70,000 miles. Every 34 to 35,000, I change the fluid. And that's because that's the way I add life to the transmission, and I know I don't want to ever go into the transmission. Got to go, Arnold, but anyway, thanks for your call, and I do insist that you change the fluid in that CVT transmission every 24 months or 30,000 miles. You got it?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Texas. Take a call from John. John, an 03 Kia. Good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, John.
Yes, thank you for taking the call, Bobby.
You're welcome.
This started happening, I guess, a couple of years ago, and I haven't had my mechanic look at it, but when I go to put gas in it, it burps it up like a baby burping up milk.
Right.
I have to say I'm putting in $15 worth of gas. I have to stop at about $1 worth, stop at about $2
Oh,
worth.
that's terrible. That's caused, of course, for every time you fill a fuel tank, you're displacing the air that's in the tank. That air has to go somewhere. That air is also part of the emissions because you do not vent air to the atmosphere except when you're filling. And that's controlled, and that being the escaping air that's vented from the tank either goes into the air that's in a hose or a tubular connection that is on top of the main filler neck tube just behind the little restrictor where you plug in the filler hose, the nozzle. So you can't see it, but if you could put a little camera in there, go ahead.
You said restrictor. Are you talking about that little trap door? As you
right.
put the
So just inside that trap door, and in the roof of the filler neck on all vehicles is an escape for the air to get out of the tank and get and bleed out while you're pumping that fuel in there. So many gallons per minute. Probably 40 gallons a minute. I don't know what the rate is, but something like that. 30 gallons a minute.
I found a filling station with a real old-fashioned pump that you can slow it down.
Yeah.
But I can't. It's not convenient for me to go
it's
there
not
every
convenient
time.
for anybody. Besides, we're Americans. It's just not good to be patient. Patience? Don't give me patience. Give me fill up a tank. So here's the bottom line.
Right.
Here, I mean, you shouldn't be bothered with this. What I imagine you have is either a blockage in that line, that hose that goes from the top of the fuel tank to the top of the fuel neck, or you have a problem with the canister that has valves and what have you, and almost any shop worth its salt, independent, and of course, new car dealer, of course, can test the evaporative system and make sure that the airways are clear. And if the airways are clear, then probably you're going to have to replace the canister assembly that has solenoids that prevent these fumes from getting into the atmosphere. And that's also likewise when you're filling, except for when you're filling the vehicle, then they got to have a place for the fumes to go when it escapes. And that's why gas station filler nozzles have that big boot to shield those fumes from you and from breathing those. Yeah, that's what that's all about in the splash bag.
Oh, I wondered.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I never wondered, but I should have.
You should.
Why is that thing there?
Well, that's why you called me.
Well, I'll tell. I think I've got a good mechanic. I'll tell him what you said, Bobby,
Okay.
And I was afraid I'd have to take out the entire gas tank.
Well, it's possible. Let me tell you this, and I don't know where the canister is located, but if it's a retro Thunderbird, like a 2003 Thunderbird, you have to drop the differential independent suspension because for some reason, or for no reason, or for assembly, I guess, they put the carbon canister above the rear differential assembly. I know this because we've done this. Anyway, you've got the information you need for your next step, so find your service shop and go forward. Let me know if I can help you again. Thanks for calling. Where do you live?
Longview, Texas.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling, and thanks for tuning in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, John.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Nice gentleman. Let's take a call from Missouri. Easton, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. First thing I want to say is I absolutely love your radio show. Love to listen to it every weekend.
Well, thank you. I love to hear that. So, what did you say again? What can I do for you?
Well, one thing is my dad and I have a 69 Ford pickup truck. It's 3/4 ton automatic. Mm-hmm. And we aren't that good at mechanics, but we do what we can on it.
Okay.
And one problem that we experience, especially in cold weather like we're experiencing right now, that whenever you're going around a curve, and it's a farm truck, we just use it on the farm, whenever you go around a curve for no reason at all, it'll just go out of gear.
Okay.
And to get it back into gear, you have to really rev it up, give it gas.
It's the automatic transmission, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, stop right there. Here's what you're going to do. You ready?
Yes, sir.
You're going to drop the oil pan from the transmission. you're going to first go to a parts store. I recommend O'Reilly Auto Parts, and buy a filter for that transmission, a transmission filter.
Alrighty.
You're going to drop the pan, you're going to drop the filter. In between the filter and the valve body, there'll be a couple of screws that hold the filter in place. There's a gasket. Now, you probably don't have that gasket, or it's possible that when someone changed the filter in the history of the vehicle, and you don't know, they put the gasket onto the filter, which you have to do, and then you put the filter in. You can't see that the gasket's in place unless you glue it in place, or unless you use like grease to stick it in place, and then you have to be careful. And so what happened and what's wrong with your vehicle is that when you turn, air is sucked in and you lose pressure, and that will fix your problem. I'm really glad you called me. You got it?
Yes, sir. I certainly do, and thank you very much. And if it's all right, I just have one more quick question.
Quickly.
And that is, I'm not quite 17, and I'm looking into buying my first vehicle. I have two possibilities. They're both Fords. One's a 91, one's a 97. The 91 is rear-wheel drive gas, $1,500, and it does have 193,000 miles.
Okay.
And the man said it does die if you put it in reverse, but it starts back up immediately, and it might need some idle work. The other one, 97 Ford V8 diesel, and it has about the same amount of miles.
Stop. Stop right there. Buy the gas engine. You're 17. You want to do some work on it. That diesel will put you in the poorhouse. An old diesel. Every visit to a service shop's $5,000. And whether it's a Ford or a GM or a Dodge, those, as you can tell, I'm not much of a diesel fan. And they earn their right in the world, but when I can steer people away, and especially in what for you, because you like to tinker and you're going to save money, but I can tell you right now, I would go with a gasoline engine, period, and I would not consider a used old diesel of that age, because age is the enemy of automobiles and mechanical. You got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome
I
very much.
appreciate it. Thank you.
So, folks, in the queue, we got to wait till we come back from this break. Dan Flores from General Motors about some exciting news. You're going to love this. Don't go away. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved.
that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, folks. A great program today. You and I, and this is exciting for me, you and I talk about electric vehicles and self-driving vehicles, and we hear news from time to time, of course, about the breakthroughs. But let's talk a little more about electric vehicles today, because we know that the EV technology is not going away. And many of you, and perhaps even I, thought about this, but automakers are making huge investments. And today, on the line with us is Dan Flores, General Motors corporate spokesperson. Dan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So proud to have you in the house.
Well, Bobby, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
GM's making a big investment in electric vehicles, specifically trucks and SUVs. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers about this large announcement. Sounds really exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely, Bobby. So about a week ago, we announced that we're in the process of investing $2.2 billion into our Detroit Hamtramck assembly plant, and that money is going to be used to produce a variety of all-electric trucks and SUVs. So the first vehicle, the first all-electric vehicle that'll roll off the assembly line at Detroit Hamtramck will be a pickup, and that production is scheduled to begin late next year. So late in 2021, we're going to have all-electric pickups rolling off the assembly line at Detroit Hamtramck. So very excited about it. The investment in Detroit Hamtramck, as well as an investment announcement we made last December, just before Christmas, where GM and our joint venture partner LG Chem we're also investing about $2.3 billion to create a battery cell plant in the Lordstown, Ohio area. So, two huge investments, approaching $5 billion between the Detroit Hamtramck vehicle assembly plant investment and the Lordstown battery cell manufacturing operation that we're going to build, with our joint venture partner LG Chem. So big money, but we're very, very excited about where the technology is going. One thing to point out, although we believe in an all-electric future, we know it's not going to happen overnight. It could be years, or it could even be decades before we get to a significant percentage in the marketplace. But we think these products, the trucks, the SUVs, will drive additional excitement for vehicle electrification. GM, and I think as you indicated, there are other automakers that are investing in the electrification of the automobile, and we're proud of these investments, and we're proud that through these investments we're taking a big step forward in making our vision of an all-electric future a reality, and we're excited and proud of that.
Well, it sounds it's a huge endeavor, and folks, we're talking with Dan Flores, GM corporate spokesperson. And, Dan, the more I think about what I hear, and the more I read and hear about the growth of the electrification of automobiles and other fleets, even to the fact of the Cruise Origin. I understand that the Detroit plant will build these vehicles and also produce that vehicle, an autonomous vehicle. Give us the overview of the Origin as it stands right now and in the future.
Yep, Bobby, absolutely. So the Cruise Origin is a shared electric self-driving vehicle that was unveiled by Cruise, and Cruise is a subsidiary of General Motors. It was unveiled in San Francisco a couple weeks ago. So in addition to that pickup that'll roll off the assembly line late next year, late 2021, following that, the Detroit Hamtramck plant will build the Cruise Origin, which again is a shared electric self-driving vehicle. Now Cruise has not announced specifically when the vehicle is going to be available. So, but you bring up a great point. That not only will this plant build all electric vehicles, the Cruise Origin is an electric autonomous vehicle. So, very excited about where the industry is heading with this technology as well.
So Dan, with regard to EVs, and of course electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles or self-driving vehicles are one and the same, but how far out do you see, and your associates there at General Motors, are we from seeing mass market adoption and widespread charging infrastructure nationwide?
Bobby, your question is an excellent one, because there certainly are challenges now, and those challenges for a broader adoption of electric vehicles include the cost of the technology, the availability of a charging infrastructure. If customers have electric vehicles, they obviously need to be able to charge them. As the infrastructure develops, essentially, as there are more places where customers can charge their vehicles, we think the infrastructure will continue to develop. But beyond the cost issue, beyond the infrastructure issue, there's range. So we are seeing significant advancements in batteries. A few years ago, General Motors unveiled and began building the Chevrolet Bolt EV, and that's an all-electric vehicle that has nearly 250 miles of range. So battery technology is progressing, charging infrastructure is progressing, and the cost of the technology is coming down. And as I mentioned earlier, we know this transformation is not going to happen overnight. That's why it's so important that we have a strong core business. We've launched new full-size pickups. We've launched heavy-duty pickups. We're in the midst now of launching all new full-size SUVs. And yesterday we just revealed the all-new Cadillac Escalade. So we're, while we are focused and committed to an all-electric future, we understand that the way we're going to get there is to have a strong core business. So although we believe in an all-electric future, and that future is becoming a little clearer every single day, the internal combustion engine is going to be around for years, if not decades. So, we are making progress on cost. We are making progress on infrastructure, and certainly we're making progress on battery technology, which the range will only continue to increase. So all those customer concerns are being worked on really hard by General Motors and everyone in the industry. So I unfortunately can't put a date on it, because there are obviously a bunch of factors, but as I've said, we're committed to an all-electric future. And if you look at these two investments, the Detroit Hamtramck investment and the Lordstown investment, as you said, these are huge sums of money, and these investments are allowing us to take a big step forward in making this vision of an all-electric future a reality. Now, to give you a little more detail, to generate a little more excitement, I mentioned that first pickup that's going to roll off the assembly line at Detroit Hamtramck next year. It's going to be a Hummer by GMC, and we're really excited about this product. We actually teased it during the Super Bowl. There was an ad with LeBron James, the NBA basketball great.
Right, yes.
So that first pickup truck off the assembly line at Detroit Hamtramck is going to be a Hummer by GMC, pure EV, and that the vehicle will be revealed in the next coming months. So I think what's going to be really key is, as the cost of the technology comes down, as the charging infrastructure improves, as range goes up, in addition to tackling those real customer concerns, if we bring to market exciting, great-looking products, that'll help generate interest in these products and in the technology. So, we're excited about it. We understand it's not going to happen overnight, but we're committed to it, and we're investing in the future, and we're excited about that.
Well, there's no question in my mind that EV market will continue to grow we've come a long way already in what has been the last 3 to 5 years. But this is we've already said that's a huge step. But when you look at those two plants and you think about, and by the way, the new GMC truck is drop dead gorgeous. And to think of the GMC vehicle and the Hummer, I can't wait to drive one of those vehicles. And the very fact that General Motors will take the Hamtramck plant and make it all EV is putting their money where their mouth is. And as the infrastructure grows, you're right, Dan, certainly when you take away the reasons not to buy the electric vehicle, like, well, there's not a gas station on every corner, then more and more people will see the advantages, not to mention the longevity of the electricity or the electric vehicles and all the good points. I'm 100% on board. So Dan, I want to take this time to solidify, in my opinion, with my Car Clinic listeners, the fact that EVs are here, and it is exciting for GM to build these plants and to build these new vehicles. Dan Flores, General Motors corporate spokesperson. Dan, thank you so much for sharing this information. We'll have to get you back as we progress and get some updates along the way. Thank you so much for joining me on Bobby Likis Car Clinic today.
Well, Bobby, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you and your listeners. So thank you so much.
How cool is that? I mean, that shows you what's going on in Detroit and around the world. And speaking of around the world, the Hyundai has suspended all assembly lines due to the parts shortages. And this has to do, of course, with the coronavirus outbreak and parts that are coming out of China. So we're going to see some interruptions in the flow of new cars because of the flow of parts and other economic issues. So you stay tuned, and I'll pass those on to you as fits within the show. But let's go to Victor in Washington. Victor, welcome back. I haven't talked to you in a while, but to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us, and thank you for holding.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. I always enjoy talking to you. My question is, and I have a few more, I think, after this. But on the idle, on the nowadays engine, what's the fuel mixture? And when it's under the load, does it increase and get a lot richer, or does it stay about the same? Or what's the difference between the fuel mixtures?
Continuously changes from idle to touch of the accelerator to wide open throttle to coasting and all those things, and that is why faster than I could explain to you, the oxygen sensor immediately tells the computer what the engine needs or what the engine is doing wrong or too lean or too rich, and the computer will make changes on the air fuel. Actually, it doesn't change the airflow because the driver demands control the airflow, but the computer measures the air by volume, so it measures the temp of the air, the temp of the engine, and it tunes the engine to what's called stoichiometric, or 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel, or 9,000 gallons of air to every gallon of fuel.
Now, I suppose then your exhaust is dirtier when you're under load than when you're idling?
Not really, because if your engine is efficient, then you're burning all of the fuel, so you get no carbon and no waste from the engine. And of course, that's not the case, but engines are getting more ICE, internal combustion engines, are getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner because the tolerances in the engine are tighter. So that fuel, any fuel or unburned fuel that normally would go through the bypass, compression bypass, blow-by it's called, would go into the crankcase and then be sucked back into the engine through the PCV valve and burned there. So it's a sealed unit, except for the exhaust, of course, can't be sealed. And that exhaust then, whatever does escape the engine in a situation that would mean that too much fuel or any fuel, the catalytic converter burns that fuel so that what comes out the tailpipe is clean air.
Yeah, when I talked to you before once, I asked a question on how much energy goes out the tailpipe, and you said you thought it was about 30%. But now another thing, I'll ask another question. I guess about 17 to 1 is the fuel mixture, basically, isn't it?
Well, no, 14 point. Stoichiometric is...
My question is, to get a clean burn, would you have to go to about 25 to 1, 30 to 1? Would that be a clean burn?
Oh, it would be exceptionally clean, but you'd have to, in order to do that, you would have to go from a stratified charge engine. You'd have to go to an engine that uses a different sparking mechanism and uses a higher compression ratio and will allow the air and fuel to completely be atomized and mixed, because as it stands, the spark fires at the top of the combustion chamber and that flame spreads downward. So the initial ball of flame that leaves the spark plug does not adequately burn the edges, around the edges of the perimeter of the flame front. Having said that, when you can control the compression, when you can control pre-ignition, and then you can run 25 to 30 to 1 parts of air and have a cleaner burning engine, and you're going to see that with engines that are diesel gasoline engines, which means that the diesel technology, the high compression, like 15, 18 to 1 compression, can be used in an internal combustion gasoline engine, because you can keep the gasoline from self-exploding through heat by using a different mechanism and engine. But that's very sophisticated, very complicated, and it's something that companies are doing.
I have an idea for an engine that you could you wouldn't use a spark plug, and you could still take any mixture 25, 30, and you could still burn it. And maybe I'm up a rabbit trail.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Supposing you hadn't.
Well, Victor, excuse me, I'm out of time. So I want you to call back next week, because I want to hear all about your ideas, and then I'll bring to you what is already on the market and on the table. And Tom, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us. See you next week.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise and Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at motorrad.com.
O'Reilly. It's O-Rewards Bonus Points Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Earn double points on all sale items like wiper blades, motor oil, tools, and more. Ready for an oil change? Get 5 quarts of O'Reilly High Mileage Motor Oil and a MicroGuard filter for $23.99, plus double O-Rewards points. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. You're a rose.